They thought they got away with it. Years passed, decades even, no suspects, no arrests, no justice. But time has a way of uncovering the truth. Tonight, we're diving into crimes that were forgotten until justice came. Far too late. Cold cases are more than just unsolved mysteries. They're stories left unfinished, families left waiting, and secrets buried deep in silence. But sometimes, even after years of darkness, the truth finds its way back. In 1994, a woman vanished without a trace. No signs of struggle, no suspects, just gone. Police searched everywhere, but the case went cold and eventually forgotten until 23 years later, a dusty box of evidence was reopened. Inside, a single item, a tape. The tape revealed something chilling, a voice in the background, one that investigators had missed. That voice led them to a suspect, her neighbor. He had lived next door the entire time. In 1981, a teenage boy disappeared after leaving home. No clues, no witnesses. His family never stopped searching. Years turned into decades. Then, an construction project changed everything. Workers uncovered human remains, buried just meters from where he was last seen. But here's the twist. The person responsible had already been questioned. Back in 1981, they were released due to lack of evidence. Now, DNA told a different story. Justice came, but 40 years too late. In 2002, a man walked into a police station and confessed to a murder. But there was a problem. No body, no evidence, no missing person report. So police didn't believe him. They let him go. Years later, a missing persons case reopened, and everything matched. The same details, the same story. They went back to find him, but this time, he was gone. Justice missed its chance. And these are just the ones we know about. There are still thousands of cases waiting. What if the truth is closer than we think? What makes these cases truly terrifying is not just the crime, it's the waiting. The idea that someone could live a normal life for years while hiding something dark, smiling, working, blending in, until one day they don't. Justice doesn't always come quickly. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes a lifetime, and sometimes it comes too late. But the truth, it never stays buried forever. If this disturbed you, then you're not alone. Because somewhere, right now, a case is waiting to be remembered. Watch next, the case that solved itself after 30 years. Subscribe for more real mysteries and untold stories. Some crimes weren't just forgotten, they were ignored. Warnings were given, clues were missed, and chances were wasted. And when the truth finally came out, it was already too late. In part 1, we saw how time buried the truth. But in these cases, the truth was right there, waiting, and still, no one acted. In 1998, a 911 call came in. A woman, whispering. She said someone was in her house. She gave her address. She begged for help. And then, the line went dead. Police arrived, but something went wrong. They checked the outside, knocked once, and left. No forced entry, no visible threat. So the case was closed. 3 days later, a neighbor reported a smell. She had been inside the entire time. And the worst part, the suspect had been seen leaving the house the same night police arrived. For years, one case sat untouched, locked away in a box labeled inactive. Inside were items collected from a crime scene in 1976. But back then, technology wasn't enough. So the case faded, forgotten, like so many others, until a new detective reopened it. They tested the evidence using modern DNA tools, and what they found changed everything. The DNA matched someone already in the system, a man arrested decades later for a completely different crime. He had lived freely for over 30 years, not because he was innocent, but because the evidence was never looked at again. In 2005, A child tried to tell the truth. They described everything, the person, the place, what they saw, but no one believed them. They said the story didn't make sense, that it was just imagination, so the case was dropped. Years later, another crime happened, same pattern, same method, and this time, they found proof. When investigators looked back, they realized something terrifying. The child was right all along, and if they had listened, that second victim might still be alive. How many warnings are ignored every day? How many voices go unheard? And how many crimes are still waiting to be taken seriously? The most unsettling part isn't just the crime, it's the system, the missed calls, the overlooked evidence, the voices dismissed too quickly. Tone sharpens, because sometimes it's not that the truth is hidden, it's that no one chooses to see it. Justice isn't just about catching the guilty, it's about listening, paying attention, acting when it matters most. Because once time passes, you can't undo what's already been done. But what if some cases aren't solved because someone doesn't want them to be? What if the truth was buried on purpose? The cases that were covered up. Subscribe before the next story disappears. What if some crimes were never meant to be solved? Not because of missing evidence, but because someone made sure the truth stayed hidden. Files erased, witnesses silenced, evidence that vanished without explanation. These aren't just forgotten crimes, they're the ones that were buried on purpose. In the last two parts, we saw how time delayed justice and how mistakes allowed the truth to slip away. But now, we're stepping into something deeper, cases where the truth didn't just disappear, it was taken. In 1989, a homicide case shook a small town. There were witnesses, there was evidence, and there was a prime suspect. Everything pointed to one person, until suddenly, the case file disappeared. No reports, no statements, no evidence logs. It was as if the case never existed. Years later, a retired officer spoke out. He claimed the file was removed by someone higher up. No investigation followed, no one questioned it, and the suspect, they were never charged. They still live like nothing ever happened. In 2007, a key witness came forward. They had seen everything. They identified the suspect. They gave a detailed statement, and then they took it all back. Suddenly, they couldn't remember. They weren't sure anymore. The case collapsed. But years later, that same witness made a private confession. They admitted they were threatened, not by the suspect, but by someone else. Someone never identified. Over a span of 15 years, similar crimes kept happening. Same method, same type of victims, same eerie details. But officially, they were never connected. Different jurisdictions, different investigators, no shared reports. It wasn't until an independent researcher started digging that the pattern became clear. These cases were linked, but when they tried to publish their findings, they were warned to stop. They did. How many cases have been quietly buried? How many truths never made it to the surface? And who decides what we're allowed to know? The most disturbing part isn't just the crimes. It's the possibility that some of them were never meant to be solved. Not because of time, not because of mistakes, but because someone made a choice to hide the truth. Justice depends on truth, and truth depends on what we're allowed to see. But if evidence can disappear, if voices can be silenced, then what does justice really mean? Some crimes are forgotten, some are ignored, and some are buried so deeply they were never meant to be found. Watch the full trilogy, Forgotten Crimes. Subscribe, because some stories are still unfolding. What if these crimes never actually stopped? What if they just changed? Different methods, different faces, but the same patterns. And this time, they're happening right now. We've seen crimes forgotten by time, cases ignored, truths buried, But today, it's not about the past anymore. It's about what's still happening, right in front of us. In today's world, people don't just disappear physically. Sometimes, they disappear digitally. Accounts go silent, messages stop, profiles remain frozen in time. Friends assume they're busy, family thinks they need space. But days turn into weeks, and no one realizes they're already gone. In several cases, the only clues left behind were online search histories, unsent messages, location pings. But by the time anyone notices, it's too late. In crowded cities, thousands of people pass each other every day, and that's exactly what makes it easy. Because patterns hide in noise, similar disappearances, same types of victims, same locations, but spread out over time, across different areas. No one connects them, not at first. By the time someone does, the pattern has already grown. Just recently, a routine check revealed something strange. A security camera captured the same figure, appearing multiple nights, same time, same place, different victims, passing by. At first, it meant nothing, just another person in the background. But one investigator noticed the pattern. They went back, reviewed months of footage, and realized this person was always there, watching. By the time they tried to identify them, they had already disappeared. The scariest part, these aren't isolated cases. They're happening right now. Today's world moves fast. Too fast to notice everything. People assume someone else will pay attention. But what if no one does? What if the signs are right in front of us, and we just scroll past them? Forgotten crimes aren't just part of history. They're part of the present. They evolve, they adapt, and sometimes they continue without anyone realizing. So the next time something feels off, a message that doesn't get answered, a pattern that doesn't make sense, pay attention, because the difference between a forgotten crime and a prevented one is noticing before it's too late. Watch the full series, Forgotten Crimes. Subscribe, stay aware, stay watching.